The sounds of a bugle filled the terminal at the Spokane International Airport on the morning of departure, a somber reminder of lives lost. 12 veterans who had waited to take this flight only to have it delayed by 2 years by the COVID-19 pandemic. They lost their lives during the wait. 99 veterans did board the Inland Northwest Honor Flight, accompanied by several student guardians from Whitworth. One of those guardians was Army ROTC cadet Molly Hansen.
I knew it was going to be a very deep and emotional experience, and so I was preparing myself for just a lot of emotions and trying to be supportive for my vets that I was with. But once I actually met my vets, I realized that this is going to be a really fun trip, and it's not going to be all tears and sadness the whole time.
She accompanied 3 men, Randy from Idaho, Dick from the Tri-Cities, and Gary from Post Falls, all Vietnam veterans, all Navy sailors.
They were super honest with me about the good stuff, the bad stuff, the ugly, the funny stuff, and they answered all my questions. I heard them talking to each other too, which is really cool because one of them was on the same aircraft carrier at the same time, and so they just were like, oh, you know this guy, and it just was cool, like, bonding experience that I got to experience and see.
The group boarded several buses and headed for the Air Force Memorial in our nation's capital. On Tuesday, they visited the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier at Arlington National Cemetery, the World War II Memorial, the Korean War Memorial, the Lincoln Memorial, and the Navy and Marine Corps memorials. But it was during the stop at the Vietnam War Memorial where Hansen felt the true impact of this trip.
One of my vets had a friend who was on the wall, and he had never been to DC before, and so it was the first time that he had actually sat in front of his plate and just like felt all the emotions of losing his best friend in Vietnam. And thankfully, one of my other vets helped this guy out, but this guy has gone through so much pain and hardships because of the loss he's experienced because of Vietnam.
Courtney Mankiller, a U.S. Air Force veteran, was also selected to go on this trip as a guardian. She was accompanying 2 other men, Air Force veterans Mike and Brian. But it was that same man, Gary, who, as it turns out, actually knew her grandfather, that created a moment for her she'd never forget. As he cried at the wall after seeing the name of his friend, he told her he was embarrassed he couldn't pull it together in front of this group.
And I remember telling him, well, Gary, you have nothing to pull together. You did your time. Your grieving is valid. You deserve this time to grieve, and if no other time is the right time to grieve, then, this would be the time. This is your time.
Something else happened to Mankiller at the Vietnam Wall, something she never expected.
Yeah, when we went up there, they found their friends that had passed, and then I found my uncle, and I was like, my great uncle. I was like, oh my gosh, and I messaged my dad, and I was like, look who I found. And it was like the coolest, most surreal moment that happened there for me.
Not long after these emotional experiences, the group was back on the plane headed for Spokane, and for many, about to receive the hero's welcome they missed the first time. Hundreds of people lined the terminal waving flags and banners. There was a band and cheers of gratitude. Mankiller remembers getting off the plane and thinking she'd be able to get through it without getting too emotional. She was wrong.
Immediately, as soon as people started clapping, I just broke down. I was like, this is it. This is what they deserved. And I'm sitting here in my own feelings because this is how it should have been. They did do a really big thing. Some of them didn't come back. And, it wasn't just for the people that were there and did come back from that trip, it was also for the people that they had lost as well. Because a lot of them don't, when they're grieving, they don't really want to be touched, but it was so cool to see those men that went from, crying and mourning and grieving their losses to coming home to all of these people and shaking their hands and crying at the same time, and accepting that. Okay, this is, I'm gonna be okay. This is how this is gonna be now.
For Hansen, whose dad and both grandfathers were in the Guard, and whose great aunt was a Navy captain and ran a hospital ship in Vietnam, the trip has given her the opportunity to create dialogue with them about their pasts.
I feel like now I have a better platform to have conversations about her experience in the military, and I'm a better listener now.
For Mankiller, she came away with an unexpected bond she now shares with these veterans. She was unable to finish her service due to a medical issue and often felt she wasn't treated respectfully by the military and that she didn't deserve gratitude for time served. But this trip and those new friendships changed that for her.
Maybe I do deserve to be here, and maybe it is a good thing that I am here to share these stories, and realize that the world is so small and a lot of our problems are problems that we all are suffering with in some way or another. Because, those men did not have the same walk of life that I did or that I do currently, but we still somehow ended up having, a similar issue, and I think that was a really important turnaround from my perspective. Coming back home, I was like, wow, okay, I did deserve to go on that trip. That was a really good experience for me, and I'm really grateful for it.